Hey everybody, this is Mitch. I wanted to go through this week some work I've been doing on my main utility drawer in my Milwaukee cabinet. So I've got 5 or 6 things that I learned while producing this drawer and the one next to it. I'll show that here in a minute. And just a few tips to kind of get you started. So this is just where my catch-all of all the kind of weird stuff that I had that I use on a fairly frequent basis and or some not so frequent basis, and it was just kind of rolling around in here. So I'm like, look, I've got to organize the store. It's been on my list for months and months and months. So finally got around to doing it. So tip number one, Gridfinity is based on the grid, as you can see here. It's 42 by 42 millimeters, and you basically print out the grid that you need. Mine was, I think, 3 5x5 grids, and then something in the back, I think, was 3.5 to make it mostly fit. I still glued it down in small places to make it immovable, because you never, unless you design your drawer to fit the grid, nothing's ever going to really match exactly unless you find something very specific to the thing you're working with. So these take a bit to print off. The 5x5 on my A1, and I'm using the light version of the grid. Still takes 45 minutes for a 5x5, and I needed 3 of them. So I knew I was going to work on this, so I just started printing stuff. And it doesn't hurt to basically print this stuff in advance if you have an idea that you're going to be doing it. And that way you can get it out of the way. And then when you finally start to print the bins, you have your grid already in place and ready to go. So that's the first thing I would do. The second thing is look around for something that will hold the tools that you have. There are thousands upon thousands of models up on Maker World and other sites, and so just look around for things that you use that somebody else has done. And also remember that not everybody is from the same country. Maybe things are called different in one place versus the other. Like these punches here, I had to basically type in a specific word. I can't remember what even I used. I think it was punch. These are nail sets, and these fit perfectly, but I had to find them, and I didn't know. I was just kind of randomly putting in words and finally found the correct terminology for what I was looking for, and I was actually able to find it. That was great. So find the thing that you want to make, or that you have a tool that you need to fit. Do that first so that you can take advantage of other people's work. So that's the second lesson, but the kind of the most important one, because there's thousands of tools out there, and there's no reason for you to spend the time to do this from scratch. After that, what you do is you create your own tools or your own bins and things. And this can be as simple as putting it in like this knife here. Let me kind of explain how I got to the knife, give you a perfect example. So the first thing I found was this, and it worked perfectly fine. But the gentleman had designed it for a knife that was a different size. I think he was out of Germany. I'm not positive. I think he was from Europe for sure. He had designed this for a specific kind of knife, and his knife was longer than mine. So I printed this off, and I realized, that's great, but I'm losing one whole grid space. And I'm like, that's fine. And then the next day I was like, I need to kind of consolidate this and see if I can get to work. And so I designed this. So this was created in Fusion 360, and there is a generator that you can plug into Fusion that will help you generate the bin. And so I generated a solid bin, and then I took the measurements of this, and this is a 1x4, as you can see. And then I took the measurements and I just made a cutout with the rectangle, and then I filleted the edges at the ends, and that gave me a perfect, pretty much size hole for my knife. And what you do with this is you kind of keep doing that. So it can be as simple as that, or as complicated as this thing here. This is actually a tool I'm probably going to put in a different place, but this is a tool that allows you to, theoretically, I haven't even used it, chamfer your edges of your veneer after you've installed it on your plywood. So it runs along the corner there, and it was supposed to fillet or chamfer the edge, and it's all great, good, wonderful. So that's one of the most complicated ones I have. They have spare blades. There are 2 different Allen keys that help you change the blade and set it up. So that's a fairly complicated one. And even then, it really wasn't that complicated. It can be whatever. But anyway, so probably about half of these things were actually created from models that I downloaded, and the other half were created by things I had to do. Like this is again, very similar to this device. It's a knife that you cut the corner off of something, and that is pretty cool. And so I had to make something specific for it. Wasn't a big deal, just a slightly odd shape. But then this is the actual sharpening device, and you basically put it in there and move it back and forth and sharpens it. For this one, I just went out to one of the parametric customizers that are on Maker World, and I just created an empty 2x3 bin and just put it in there, and that fits there. It's loose, but this versus me having to make it solid and then cut out the thing for the thing to go on and make sure I got room to pick it up with my fingers, it's just it really wasn't worth the effort. So, you know, don't get complicated with your designs. So like here is another one, for example. This is another one of those knife things that I showed you minutes ago that I had for my utility knife. And I had printed two of them because I had two knives at the time. And then this isn't a metal awl. And I realized, you know, that fits in there perfectly. I mean, it's not the best fit in the world, but it doesn't really have to be the best fit in the world. But that works, and that saves me from having to design a model from scratch, which is what I had to do for this one. With this one, this is just a standard chisel, and it's actually kind of a metal slash, rock chisel. It's got a thicker bottom than everything else, so I had to actually cut out an indentation at the bottom, kind of fits that. I had to put a little hole at the top so I could pull it up with my finger, and then that was specific to this tool. Now, is this overkill? Absolutely, that's overkill. You know, the number of times I've used this, I couldn't even tell you. Maybe twice in the past 2 years, maybe. So anyway, but the idea here is you're trying to go after the easy things you can do first, and then you make your own. And again, don't get complicated. But if you do have to make stuff, you also have to consider how things need to go together. So this is a moisture meter. And this is just used to figure out how much moisture is in a piece of lumber. You put that in, it turns it on when it hits that little button right there, and it will give you a reading of what the moisture is. So there's two ways to do this. The first way, what most people try to do is they put it laid down like that, but as you can see, that doesn't fit. And if we do make it fit, we're going to make this twice as big, which again takes up twice the space. Now, I just elected to put it in vertically like this, and then I can put it here and everything should work. The problem with this is, with my cabinet here, is if you put it too far forward, it actually will run into the drawer above it. And this has kind of been the whole thing with this. So you have to put it further back so that it doesn't run into it. And what I found is literally where it was over here, even though it's just literally one grid component further back, it still made a difference in how it worked. Okay, so when you're designing something, you don't always have to put it in the layout that's face up. You can actually put it sideways. It just doesn't make sense. The other thing you can do is change your mind. So here I have, a razor knife that we use to clean off labels and stuff off of things, and just uses a straight razor blade. So before I made this, I had found this little thing, and this is used to store these straight razor blades, just like that. Holds like 15 or 20 or something like that. 3 separate pockets to keep them from, falling over each other. So I printed that, and it worked perfectly. And then when I was doing this, I realized that, well, I'm going to have a 2x3, and that's going to give me some extra space. So why don't I go ahead and build in the pockets of this to hold the razor blades in the bin for the tool, and then that way I can retire this and use it for something else I need. So that's what I did. So I changed my mind along the way, and that's perfectly fine. So again, everything that you do is up for debate, to be quite honest. And even like this is a center finder, and it just happens to fit perfectly inside a 2x2 spot, and it's sitting in there right now. So again, this is just a bunch of different little things that I had that fit. Some of them I'm not exactly happy with. Some of them, like this one, is just beautiful, as you can see. I printed off in 3 different colors. fit is absolutely perfect. I had upgraded my setup blocks. So these are just setup blocks where you have an exact measurement. This isn't real, as you can see, of course. Works great. I started putting the red trim around the top there, and I made the stuff, the labels white, of course, and that works just absolutely great. So, you know, again, the big thing here is adapt to what you have. And like all of this stuff here actually came from the drawer above, just two above. Next thing, no, what's this one? They were in here, and I'm like, well, I'm not ready to work on this drawer yet. I've got some kind of early prototypes I did a couple years ago, but I've still got work to do. So what I did is I just put all this stuff in here. I don't use these things that often, and this was the drawer where I had most of my most commonly used stuff. And I'm gonna have another video talking about me removing stuff from this drawer and making it more accessible. And like I said, that'll be in a different video. But the idea here is we want to be able to adapt to the change like I did with this, and then just try to make it fit your environment. So as you notice, a lot of these are the same height, but then some of them are lower, higher, depending on what you need it to do. So you, the part of doing this in this way is, I can do something like this. Yes, this is not a great example, but a lot of these bins are actually stackable. Now I can't do it because my drawer is not deep enough. But with these two, I can actually put it back up here and or in here, and I can actually stack these, I think, without it actually having interference. So if you notice here, this white thing here, that's what I did there. So these are files, and I print them off, and I can't remember if I created this or if I found it. I have no idea. It's a while ago I did this. So anyway, so those are stackable, which you can do. Okay. And if you do these, if you feel like it, you don't have to, but if you find stuff that you value off of Maker World, why don't you put your own designs up here? Okay. Like I know I think I did this one, and I did a couple more, but some of them I haven't had time. But like this tool, I'll probably put up there. It's just a matter of doing it. I just haven't had the time. But, you know, some of the things are very, very specific to my environment. But if it's generic enough, then, you know, I think it's worth putting up there. So just something to keep in mind. Again, you don't have to do that. But, you know, the way I look at it is I found stuff from somebody else had done where they put it up for free. I'm going to return the favor by putting up my stuff. Like this was free. Okay. I would have paid for that, to be quite honest. It's so well done. So the whole thing is, if you find value, try to contribute back, and that way it kind of equals out the equation. So I've got one more drawer to go through, and let's just jump over there real quick. So this is my measuring drawer, and I have tools in here that I use on a semi-frequent basis, but I kind of wanted everything together in one place. Most of my measurement tools are actually at the end of the toolbox right here. All the rulers, etc., I put on the end, so I have ready access to them. But some of these had to be kind of, you know, done, you know, with a unique thing. And pretty much every box in here, every bin in here, I actually created. So did this a while ago. That's up on Maker World. This is a laser level. Sorry. This is a laser level. This is another example of putting it on its side to take up less space. But again, you have to take into account how it comes out of the box there. So this is up on Maker World. This one as well. And it's kind of funny. This is like the third time I've actually recorded this video. But the more I talked about this box here, the more it really got to bothering me. Because the reason I did this is like the first one I did that I created of this whole set of two drawers. And I did it because I'm lazy. It's real simple. It's just a box that has a rounded top and just a flat bottom. And I did it so that this device would fit in there. And the device is mediocre. It doesn't measure very small stuff. But anyway, it's a different story. So I did this, and like I said, this is like the third time I did it. And like the first time I'm doing it, it's like, man, that is a waste of space. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 long and 2 wide. As you can see, we've got lots of empty space there. The reason I did it like that is because the only other way I can store this, as I've talked about, is putting it on its side. Well, I can do it like that, but I'm not saving anything. So what I would need to do is create a bin that takes into account this big knob here. And you know what? Talk about being adaptive. This got to bothering me enough to where I redid it. Let's look and see what we did here. So here's the new one. And what I did is I tried to make it as generic as possible. So we have the ability to put that in there like that. We also have an older version, and that fits in there. So this version is from Crown Tools, and it has a little lever to let you lock it down in place. And so what I did when I created this is this middle hole here is adapted to the tools that I had. So what I did is I measured the overall length. So the length didn't change, but the widths changed depending on the properties of this. So the way this one worked is the blade is more toward the bottom than the middle. This one was directly in the middle. So I had to account for the lock knob and where the blade went up there. So I did that. And then I had another variation of this, a smaller version. That's the same thing, except this one used a wing nut. And so this one is slightly different than that one because this one had to be wider because the wing nut sticks out further than that. So that works, and it can move up and down a bit. And the reason I did it this big is so other people, and I have not put this up on Maker World yet, but it'll be 2 models. But this one has the ability to hold different sizes there depending on what you think you might have. And as I'm working on this one, I'm like, that is just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So I got to looking around and I got to thinking, that's not the way I would do it if I was making this tool. And I'm pretty sure the reason I did that is because it's cheap. It's a cheap piece of kit. So I went and got this little brass thumb knob. And that goes on there just like that. Works just fine. Loosen it, tighten it, and you're done. The other cool thing is it will actually fit in the original design. So I didn't have that knob when I designed this. And so if I did have the knob, I would have only had to create 1 design instead of 2 designs. But here's how I'm going to use it. So I have the new one, the larger, older one, and then the modified one there. And then I'll just put this somewhere in my collection of stuff I can use on other projects. So there is that. So that's just kind of a lesson learned where I went from a flat to vertical, and then I wanted to store these other 2. So I had to come up with a combination that allowed me to do all of that. And then this one here is a little bit of both. So I designed this whole thing, and after I did it, space-wise, I can't really do anything else to this. But what I think I can do is, it's, as you can see, it is really thick because I wanted to match the others. And it's all useless space, to be quite honest. So what I think I'm going to do on this one, I don't have to do it right now because everything is working. I am going to recreate it. It's kind of a pain to move this thing over to a different drawing, but I'm gonna probably cut this down about half and then inset it deep so it's flush, and then that way I could stack another bin or bins on top of it because I don't use that this often, and there's no reason for it to occupy so much space. So speaking of space, sometimes you have to think outside the box, and that's where we get to this monstrosity here. This is a scribing tool. So the idea here is we have a little pen that comes out like that, and we have a pencil, and what we use this for is to trace along a design, in this case a wall, and I'm going to scribe a mark on something like a plywood, and that way I can draw on the plywood the actual wall itself or whatever it might be. And then I go, and then once I have that line, I can take a sander or a jigsaw or a bandsaw and cut the line, cut to the line so that it fits on whatever is on this side exactly. So as you can see, this is just all kinds of out of the place, right? So it would fit in just fine. Take this pencil up. That fits perfect. Could have saved a few spots. It also is too tall. Okay, well, I'm sitting here and I'm playing with it and I'm like, too tall. Everything I can think of, and finally I'm like, wait a minute, this hinge goes all the way back. Let me look at that. So take this out, put that back, secure position, and I realized I could lay it down this, and it still sticks up a little bit, but it's enough to clear. And yes, it is a ginormously big tool and takes up a bunch of space, and I don't use it that often. So this tool may get relegated to the secondary storage in my shop for where I put tools that I don't use but a few times a year. And that's probably where this one will go. And I may keep it in the same box. Okay, so with this one here, like I said, that model, this original model is up on Maker World already. This one I'm not going to create a model for because this is specific to me, because not everybody's going to have these rulers. This is just a radius guide. And so I don't think I'll put this one up there, but these two are up. The original one for that is up. I'll put these two up. And when I get to a final stage where I'm happy with this, I'll put this one up on Maker World. So anyway, that is what I've been working on. As Robert Cohen he had a video talking about, and I'll link his in the description. He redid his storage, and kept, precise measurements and numbers of filament used, how many hours it took, and his is a really good thing because this stuff takes forever. Like these boxes here take somewhere between 3 and 4 hours to print. So it really takes up a lot of time, more than you want. The grids, like I said, a 5x5 grid on my A1 takes 45 minutes, and that's the light version. So that's the reduced filament version. So these two drawers here is pretty much an entire week's worth of production just to get printed, if not more than that. Now, when I say a week, I mean a week of just about 24 hours a day running the printer. So anyway, so remember, print the grid first, find existing models, use those, create what you have to. Don't overcomplicate things. Be adaptive to change, just like this right here. I didn't like that, found a way around it, tripled my storage. And finally, contribute the models back to Maker World or whatever website you like, if you feel like it and when you can. And those 6 things, I think, will make you a better contributor to the community and also master your storage. Thanks a lot.